Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Formula One Fans UK podcast. I'm Reece and I'm joined today by
Chris,
Dan,
and Tim.
How's everyone doing today?
not bad, yeah, doing good.
Oh, good.
Good.
We enjoy testing.
It was definitely eventful.
I watched a lot of it. Between 20 and 21 of the 24 hours of track time, I reckon I watched across the 3 days.
I felt guilty if I had to change channel.
Yeah.
It has that effect on you, the return of Formula One, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think it's the fact that it's such in-depth coverage now. It's not just let's hide them away in Spain and no one can see and just wait till you get to the first race of like, hey, we've got this.
Yeah, I think I must have watched every single bit I could on the weekend, and I got up early before work to watch it on Friday as well, just to see the cars going out on track. And I was so happy when they came straight out the pit lane as well. There was no sitting around and waiting for an hour like there usually is in Barcelona. It's a case of, no, let's just get out there and go. We've only got 3 days to do it in.
I heard a rumor, though, that you got really bored and fell asleep.
I had my vaccine today. I felt awful, and I fell asleep during testing.
You missed the most interesting qualifying battle that F1 has had for several years between Yuki Tsunoda and Max Verstappen.
Let's start putting less and less fuel in our cars to make our driver look better. I mean, we all did our predictions, and we went for McLaren fastest, Alpine fastest, Lance Stroll for some reason fastest. Not sure.
But we weren't completely far off with Alpine. They were like 4th fastest, but the most laps run by Mercedes, well, that was a fail.
That doesn't worry me because if whatever's gone on with Mercedes, they're quick enough to fix it.
I think the lack of running doesn't worry me for Mercedes. The instability, mostly in the car when it was running, is what Mercedes will be worried about, I think.
Yeah, their instability was leading to oversteer. And Hamilton has always said he likes driving a car with oversteer.
I've heard that people keep referring to Hamilton as the new Sebastian Vettel because he keeps spinning around all the time.
And twice.
That's a low blow.
It was Carlos Sainz who struggled the most.
But to be fair, there was only, 6 or 7 spins the whole weekend?
There weren't many, which was good for me because one of my predictions did come true, and that was Sebastian Vettel would not spin. Granted, Vettel didn't really get on track.
You can't spin when you're not racing.
We mentioned the condensed format and the fact they went out there straight away. I think less testing is giving the fans a lot more going forward if they stick with that format.
Yeah, with testing, you've got the technology now to know, this is how this should work. All you're really testing is if the car is reliable. And going into next season, it's not like they're changing anything dramatically with how the cars run. It's all aerodynamic changes next season.
Yeah, the engines and the power units are staying the same.
You've already got a team, I can't think who it was, this season.
I think it's Haas.
That's right. I've already wrote off this season, said they're working on it here.
Yeah, they're writing off 2021. What do you think, though? Obviously, you've brought in 2 new drivers, and their first year is a write-off.
I think it's good in the sense of it'll get them in the routine with the travel.
The drivers get in, they learn all the circuits. They've got absolutely no pressure placed on them.
That's a good point. I suppose if your team's writing off the season, there's no expectation for you, I guess.
Yeah, they'll get a good feel for it, but I think on track this could be the worst performing team we've seen on track since the HRT team.
God!
At some point early season where they're going to be cutting it fine with 107% rule.
I don't see them stopping them racing. Maybe if just Mazepin falls short of the 100%. But if Nick falls short of it, I think they'll let him race.
Yeah, they did get a lot of running in Haas. They were the 3rd or 4th most laps across
fifth. It was the 5th most lap they did.
Yeah.
There's the 5th most laps, but they ran some megas, and it's not as mega as Kimi. I think on the final day of testing, I think Kimi Räikkönen did over 3 race distances.
Yeah, he did like 160-something laps on the last day, wasn't it? Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's 53 laps in when you're doing the Bahrain Grand Prix.
But at least we know that the car's reliable.
Yeah, there was not much in the way of breakdowns. I mean, the red flags that came out, there was Sainz breaking down, Hamilton spinning, Perez exploding, and the rest of them with Michael Massey being bored.
Looking at the timing of that Ferrari breakdown, I did wonder at the time whether it was a fuel drain.
I think, like like Chris said, maybe they were running a bit light on the fuel, trying to eke out that last bit of fuel mileage, and they kind of just got it wrong. Or even Leclerc's got a heavy foot and he just likes to go fast and doesn't give a what the Ferrari mechanics think.
Yeah, but
to be fair, I wouldn't listen to Ferrari mechanics and strategists either after the last few years. So.
Oh, hell no. Hell no.
And we're off the air in Italy.
That's okay.
You don't talk about the car.
It's a no good. It's a no good car.
Nicky Lauda called it and it won him 2 world championships.
Okay.
It's a piece of no, it's a Ferrari. You can't say that.
I do like that they have brought back the darker red at the back of their car to match the maroon livery.
You know when you run out of ink on a printer, it looks like that. It's just all the colours have gone wrong.
Yeah.
Anyway, testing big surprises for me would be Tsunoda, looking quite an accomplished little driver.
Only 2 things shorter than Yuki Tsunoda's lap times, and they were Max Verstappen's lap times and Yuki Tsunoda himself.
But for someone to come into Formula One and start banging them out consistently.
Yeah, but he is generally a good driver, though. You can't take that away from him. He's a very solid driver.
He finished, where did he finish in the, was it 4th he finished in GP2 or Formula 2 last season?
Yeah, I think it was because...
Yeah,
because it was Schumacher. Schumacher won it.
Schwartzman.
Did he win it, did he?
Eilert was there somewhere.
Eilert was second, then it was Schwartzman, then it was Tsunoda. There was someone, and then it was Mazepin, I think, was 6th.
Yeah, I think I was thinking about Mazepin, not Schumacher. My apologies to the fans that I will anger. It was a genuine mistake from the Russian car. Sorry, the white car.
The not-so-Russian car after today, because WADA, the World Anti-Doping Agency, said they will not make Haas change the livery.
Oh, for God's sake.
However, they did say that Haas could have other sanctions brought against them. So anyway, let's go back to AlphaTauri, where we were.
Yuki Tsunoda, I am fully aboard the Tsunoda hype train. He is the best thing I've seen come out of that young driver program or in one of those Red Bull seats since Max Verstappen. I think he's, just looking in early days, I think he's got it to be... I wouldn't be surprised if the seats line up okay, that Tsunoda gets a title before Verstappen.
Wow.
No way.
That is a huge statement.
I think Tsunoda's great. I genuinely think sky's the limit. And I mean, how great would it be for Formula One to have a Japanese champion?
I was literally about to bring that point up. Do you remember when Kamui got his podium? Just imagine if he goes in a lead Red Bull team at the front of the grid in a season or two's time. Just the reaction that is going to create.
You said Perez isn't going to last in a Red Bull seat?
Well, I'm hoping there will be fans at the Mexican Grand Prix this year, because imagine what that's going to be like in that stadium if he pulls off a good result.
Mate, I think in that stadium it's going to be crazy regardless. The fact he's managed to stay in F1, the fact that he managed to bag himself a Red Bull seat is icing on the cake.
I think if there's a team out there that's flat to deceive in testing, though, it's Red Bull. I think they're just... The one lap stuff looked good, but I think they are the 3rd fastest team. I think Mercedes are faster, and I think McLaren are faster.
I'm on the fence for this one. I think Red Bull aren't showing everything. I don't think Mercedes, Ferrari, Red Bull, or McLaren have shown what they've got.
Yeah, I think Ferrari.
I think they showed. Ferrari had no choice but to go out and give it their all. Like, I mean, I'm not being funny. They didn't even drop the engines off for the other people until like the day before.
The Ferrari power unit, the Alfa Romeo, was the quickest car of the 3 Ferrari powered cars.
I don't read anything into that.
Well, you have just said that you believe that Ferrari had shown all that they had.
Well, no, I think Ferrari have shown all they've got, but at the same time, I don't. When I say Ferrari's shown everything they've got, I mean I think that car is being pushed to the limit. We don't know what the fuel loads it was running were.
Matteo Binotto said pre-season that Ferrari engine had fine straight line speed. You know, it was the big downfall last season, and he did claim quite vigorously pre-season that this was something that they'd find.
I think with Ferrari in that finding the straight line speed, I think there's a big difference we made at Ferrari this season is they can judge the straight line speed a lot better because one of the cars isn't facing sideways all the time.
That's it, Steve. That's it.
Oh, yeah, they lost that effect.
So we've lost the Italians and we've lost the Vettel fans. How many more can we lose?
I like Vettel.
No, it's fine because we're going to get the Vettel fans back in the Aston Martin section.
Seamlessly on the Aston Martin. That was the by far best looking car.
It looked great behind the screens that it was always behind because it was always broken.
That is my biggest disappointment so far. Actually, no, it's my second disappointment so far testing is I love that car. The press shots for that car and the release was amazing. And then it goes out and it looks like off-colour poo. I don't know. I'm sorry, but...
We'll get the Aston Martin fans back, he says.
No.
The car looks like a turd.
It's a really dark green. I don't know if it's because a sandstorm, bad lighting, all these sort of things, right? I know Chris will disagree, but it looked amazing. It looked like shiny, proper lit up and glowing.
Isn't it nice to see a car in a gloss colour for once?
Well, if you want a car in a gloss colour that actually looks good on circuit, I give you the Alpine.
The Alpine looked phenomenal.
The Alpine was a very good car.
Let's move on from a livery that we thought looked to actually look very good under the lights, which was the Williams livery. And it looks much better than it did in the studio.
No. If there was ever a livery, we gave so much stick to that Williams livery.
And it deserved it.
It looks 10 to...
It's still it'll be for the season.
I like it. It looks so much better on track than it does in the studio. Right, it looks awful in the studio, but...
Yeah, but it looks better on the track, like, marginally, but it's still awful. The only good thing to come out of those 3 days of testing for Williams is the fact that their clothing looks spot on. I like the clothing. The merch looks good.
The Williams merch looks good, but the best, I mean, I've looked at the merch this season, and I mean, you see Aston Martin, you got like their green, like zip up jumpers, everyone's got polo shirts, Red Bull polo shirt, Williams polo shirt, but McLaren have pushed the boat out. McLaren have brought out a Hawaiian shirt. And it looks phenomenal.
I have not seen this. I'm googling.
I am going to look at this.
I bought a Mercedes shirt last week. £65.
Yeah, it is the most expensive Hawaiian shirt you'll ever buy.
How much is it?
£65. And it's a papaya and cyan Hawaiian shirt.
You know what? I'm not against it, but.
What, Reece? What do I get if I buy that and wear it to the next Loud Shirt event that we have?
My respect, because what you've been wearing in times gone by has been appalling.
What, the 80s swells? You didn't like the 80s swells?
The 80s swell, because it's a Loud Shirt event and you turn up in a T-shirt.
No, it was an actual shirt, the 80s swells. It was a button-up shirt.
It wasn't. It was a T-shirt. But let's get back on the podcast. Otherwise, we're going to be talking about 80s shirts all night.
Oh, have you seen that Mercedes have an Hawaiian shirt?
Mercedes having a Hawaiian shirt?
They do indeed. And it is black with silver arrows written on it.
There's a black Hawaiian shirt with silver arrows written on it, and that's the Mercedes Hawaiian. Has every team got a Hawaiian shirt?
I would love to see the Alpha Tauri Hawaiian shirt.
What, for
$200 million? Do you think that it's all just Hawaiian shirts? I found another Hawaiian shirt by Red Bull Racing, and this one is red.
A sunset red?
Yeah, red and black.
Do you know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of the testing livery from a few years ago.
It is. It's the testing livery from
We're all talking and pointing, and nobody can see it because this is a verbal podcast.
Yes, but you can see it, Christopher, can't you? Okay, right.
Everyone wanted.
Just for the non-visual participants within this. It is all black with red feathers. I really, at some point, hope that they do an Hawaiian theme where the crew members have to wear these shirts because let's be honest, what was the point? Did they think we're going to corner the market on Hawaiian April shirt? Like
maybe they just thought we're going to have a really good summer.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, those if they made those orange instead, they would sell like crazy for Max.
Oh, could you imagine? If they didn't?
McLaren are the ones with the orange Hawaiian shirts. Speaking of McLaren, getting us back onto testing and away from Hawaiian shirts.
McLaren makes me want to drool.
That is It looks great. It sounds great. Everything about McLaren Mercedes feels right.
If you look at the standings of how the teams finished, McLaren are far enough ahead of the Mercedes to think if Mercedes weren't sandbagging but pick up some speed in the next couple of weeks, they're going to be up there competing for wins.
I really hope so. They've got the talent to be up there.
And Danny Rick hasn't got all that much over Lando.
No, I thought he'd have more on him, but he doesn't. I think we've always gone, Lando's like, we've almost number two'd him by accident. Not even thinking that he's a number two. We thought, Sainz going to be better than Lando. Now I think, McLaren.
Yeah, but I think that's
could be better,
purely because they got on so well. They were like best friends. Like you never saw any rivalry from them.
Yeah, I feel like they had this bromance, but it was a proper. It was such a bromance. It was almost like a sibling rivalry. They always wanted to beat each other because they knew if they beat the other, they could just give it stick to the other one until the next race.
You can have rivalry with friendship. You know, you are always going to want to beat your teammate. That's the one person you want to beat.
Yeah.
You never thought watching Lando and Carlos that they'd get in a argy-bargy on track and end up taking each other out like Verstappen and Ricciardo did, like Hamilton and Rosberg did. You never saw that.
Vettel and Webber.
Vettel and Webber.
Yeah.
You look at Lewis and Nico, that just turned toxic.
Well, what about Lewis and Alonso? When he held him up in the pit.
Hungary, yes.
That was disgusting.
Yeah.
And that was an example of the Schumacher side of Fernando.
I love Fernando as a driver, like to the sport and stuff like that. Amazing guy. But pulling that, I lost respect for him as a person instantly, in a heartbeat.
From the way he treated McLaren, to be honest.
Yeah.
You grassing them up and going to court and giving evidence against them. What sort of teammate is that?
Especially when you consider what happened with Renault and the way that he manipulated that team into earning him a win. However, seeing as we didn't really discuss Fernando that much when we did Alpine, he was on it.
Fernando was brilliant in testing. I mean, it didn't look like he was bothered at all by the cycling accident in Switzerland.
Interestingly, they come out and said he needs to have another operation at the end of the season.
Yes, they have had.
It surprises me that he can last the season without having to have it.
Apparently, the fracture that remains is on his top jaw and not his bottom jaw. If it was the bottom jaw, he would struggle to get the helmet on. But as it's all in the top jaw and it can be mostly treated to reduce pain in races, it's a lot easier than if it was in the bottom jaw.
It's not unheard of in professional sport for someone to play through an injury for a season and then have end of season, off season surgery. It's not unheard of.
But I think it was amazing that Fernando, what did he do? Nearly 200 laps or just over 200 laps or something like that?
Yeah, he's one of the most lap drivers.
To come out and, do that race distance after being in hospital and surgery and stuff like literally next to no time after, that's amazing. And let's not forget that 05-06 throwback helmet. Mate.
It's beautiful.
Gorgeous helmet, mate. Like it just gets you all sentimental.
I absolutely love Fernando's 2005-2006 throwback helmet. I liked everything about that era, and they didn't feel the need with tampering with stuff all the time. And I feel that's what they're doing with these sprint races that are coming up, and they've confirmed on the weekend that they want these to take place. I think it was Silverstone, Monza, and Interlagos. I don't like it. I think if you're going to do it, the format is all wrong because, and for me, someone who's not going to go to every race and who's going to be working most Fridays, missing qualifying, the shootout qualifying is so fun to watch because you see everyone absolutely going for it. And you're not going to get that in the sprint race. You're not going to be having cars going for it flat out every single lap. I think if you're going to run this format, you don't run it in the way they say they're going to.
Qualifying Saturday morning race.
Exactly that. You want to do your shootout qualifying to set your sprint grid on the qualifying on the Saturday morning, and then Saturday afternoon sprint race. That can be a sprint race, or it can set your grid for the Grand Prix on Sunday. Use Friday for testing. You're not depriving the TV audience in any way if you just use Friday for testing still, and you still got track time, track access. You buy race weekend tickets, you go to the track, and on the Friday you can go in all the grandstands and you can go around. Brilliant. But I don't know if you'll be able to do that if you've got set qualifying on a Friday and then sprint race Saturday I don't. I think it just takes away from the weekend, as just from every spectator's point of view.
As someone that's got tickets for Silverstone, I've no interest in seeing this extra race. We've got enough support races, which is being added to this season, I think, by the W Series.
It's not being added to, it's being intermixed, isn't it? Because Silverstone will not have a Formula 3 race, but it will have a W Series race.
I don't think we need to have another race added onto the race weekend schedule. And to be honest, I'm not interested in seeing a race where a grid that's already been settled by qualifying with the fastest cars at the front, then have a race to see if the fastest car that's at the front can still be fast enough to be out in the front to qualify first for the next race.
Yeah.
It's stupid. And if they're going to do it, we have to increase the amount of engines and gearboxes that the cars are going to get.
I do agree with you on that.
Stole my thunder.
They're already
That's what I was going to say.
too few engines this season.
It just the whole system feels broken if you're going to do it that way. You don't gain anything, and you look at it, you think, oh yeah, all the fast cars are at the front. The other issue, and they're saying, oh, we need to do these sprint races to mix up the order and get more overtaking on track and things like that. Every Grand Prix you watch, the lull in the action is from laps 5 to 20. If you're doing a 20-lap sprint race, you're still just going to get 5 good laps at the start and then 20 dull and then 15 dull laps at the end, where everyone's following each other and looking after their tyres because they want them to. Because in the sprint race, they're all going to want the medium compound tyre, which they're going to run to last the duration of the sprint race.
I think that it isn't a bad idea, but I think it's gonna come with too many downfalls to make it competitive. Like one, Chris brought up that the engine. Who is gonna absolutely spank their engine for 100 km race and have it blow up effectively twice as quick? It's pointless. And the reverse grid. What is the point? To show that your car can go through traffic.
Well, they're not doing a reverse grid. That's the issue. If they were doing it,
the issue with it for me is that there is no reverse grid in this.
Yeah,
I thought they were
third, and then it sets the grid.
Yeah,
I thought they were doing reverse grids. My apologies. And also, why no podium? If you're putting on the whole.
Oh, there is a podium.
Theatrical...
There is a podium. As a top three, only the top 3 cars will get points.
No podium.
No, there's no podium celebration in the context of champagne and a presentation. It's just they get the points.
I like the idea because they're basically holding on to the fact that Generation Z have the attention span of a 4-minute YouTube video. So they're trying to do something that entices them into the sport to watch that and then go, well, maybe I could sit through 75 laps of this instead of just 20. But I just think, are they going to get any actual decent racing, or is it just going to be the top 4 teams check out, take the points, see you later, and then we're looking at a situation where nobody can catch Lewis even close if he ends up checking out?
Yeah, well, you think if it's anything like last season, you'd be like, oh, okay, we've got 3 sprint races. Okay, who gets points? The top 3 cars. Okay, well, that's Hamilton, Verstappen, Bottas then.
Anyway,
okay. Should we do some season predictions?
Yeah, sounds good. Let's go.
We'll follow the same risk. We'll follow the same safe, risky, ridiculous format we did for testing. Chris, do you want to go with a safe prediction first?
My safe prediction is that Red Bull will be a challenger this season.
A race or an actual full season? Like, you think they can challenge for the titles?
Full season.
I like it. I don't know. I think for me, that's the third best team there. But I'd like to. If anyone can challenge Mercedes all season long, I welcome it.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not convinced that Mercedes are where they need to be at the minute, and that when Mercedes are not where they're meant to be, Lewis will drop his head.
And equally, when Mercedes are not where they want to be, more often than not, Verstappen is there to pick up the pieces.
Yeah.
In the last few 100%,
years.
And well, this season they've also got Perez, who is an expert in picking up the pieces. If there is something to be gained, Perez finds it. If it's a podium or even a win, as we've now seen, he'll find it.
Yeah.
My safe prediction for the season is I think that McLaren are going to be consistently fighting for podiums. I realistically think that.
And he stole mine.
Because I think they're coming to that 5th year of their that 5-year plan that they spoke about. I think they're finally getting it all together. And I think they're now, you've got that safeness in Danny Rick and you've got that youngness in Lando that I think, I realistically think that they're going to be pushing past Ferrari. And I think that they're going to be fighting with Red Bull and Mercedes at the top. To be fair.
I agree. Yeah,
I agree.
If you get it early enough in the season, they've got that great big spot on the side of their car on their engine cover for a new sponsor.
Yeah, and there you go. And we've just set up Rich Energy again. we just can't stop helping these poor guys out.
Email PR@Rich Energy.
That's it, yeah.
My safe prediction is before the final race of the season, Formula One will not run the sprint race format going forth in the way they currently will. They'll either ditch it altogether or bring in a reverse grid.
Fair. Yeah, we've already discussed that in depth.
That, yeah.
But yeah, that's my safe prediction. I think that's not going to happen next season, 2022, in the way that it's going to happen this year.
Yeah,
okay.
I would agree with that.
Okay, my safe prediction is going to be that George Russell will score points in a Williams.
Points? Plural?
Yeah, points plural in a Williams. I think because they are ahead of Haas, and Haas managed to score points plural last season, I think they were now there.
With experienced drivers, but carry on. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, George Russell's got plenty of experience now. What's he, third, fourth season?
Third season, yeah.
Third season.
The last season of his contract.
Bottas is only a 1-year extension as well.
Both of them are only on 1 year.
They've got 3 drivers on 1-year contracts, Mercedes, and they can pick who they want. Some would say that any 2 of the 3 could match up and be in there. Really, it's Hamilton if he wants to stay, and I don't see it being Bottas over Russell unless Bottas wins the World Championship or at least pushes Hamilton to the final race.
Well, Bottas needs to be within 100 points of Hamilton this season.
Okay. Risky prediction, Chris.
My risky opinion is that every driver is going to score a point this season.
Even the Haas? Because the Haas, I mean, if you looked at, I think
I think there'll be one of those races where it'll happen.
Yeah, a rain race or something.
Or a Nutty Baku. Would you a Nutty Baku?
Yeah, something like that.
There'll be that opportunity where every driver will get a point this season.
Good shout. Dan?
I think we have a very, very, very strong chance of seeing Jenson Button race that Williams in an actual race weekend. I'm just thinking because obviously, we're still fighting COVID. And, and you look at what happened last season with Lewis going out, what happens if Lewis and Bottas get COVID or food poisoning? We've been shown that they're going to instantly take George away. But cheers, Williams, we're having George now. And I just think that, he's going to end up having a race.
So you're saying Jenson gets in that car ahead of Jack Aitken, who is the reserve driver, who did a good job in Bahrain. I don't know if Nissani has a super license though. Maybe that.
I think he actually earned it this weekend because of the mileage he did in the Williams.
I think his laps counted towards his super license.
I think that's why he was there on Friday.
Does Jenson still have? Has he raced recently enough to keep it?
I just think his advisory role is. I think he's there to push them. And that he will get a job driving that car to show the young ones how it's done.
Reece, what's your risky?
My risky prediction is we will see Yuki Tsunoda on the podium. I think he could, in a crazy race, be the guy who picks up the podium. I think there's a race where there's a late red flag or multiple safety cars or even a wet race. I think we could see him pick up a podium.
I don't think that's risky.
I don't even think that's risky. I think it's a shoot.
Really?
I think that AlphaTauri is closer to them than it was last year.
Yeah, but like I said earlier on, I think that Tsunoda's a real deal.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I completely agree. I'm completely on the hype train.
Tim?
My risky prediction is that we're going to have 5 different teams win races or more.
5 or more?
5 or more. So I think Mercedes, McLaren, Red Bull, I think are all going to win races. And I think you're going to get 2 of the rest that win races as well. Whether that's AlphaTauri and Aston.
Did we get 4 last season, didn't we? 4 different teams.
Yeah, and I think this season it's going to be 5 or more. And I don't include Ferrari in that list.
Chris, what's your ridiculous prediction?
Mine ridiculous. I don't think it's actually that ridiculous, but I think Marzipan again will finish above Schumacher in the standings.
I think that is not a bad prediction because Schumacher's shown us he takes 2 years to get used to the car, and
if Schumacher's out doing, then there's going to be some Russian sniper.
Oh my God! Schumacher's all 4 tyres have exploded at once.
Red dots, and then they just explode.
All right. Dan, your ridiculous prediction.
My ridiculous prediction is that Aston Martin's gearboxes will last all season.
And they actually run the Mercedes gearbox, so that's.
I'm not hopeful on Mercedes gearboxes either after testing.
That's funny.
I'm sorry. If you've done 1 media day and 6 laps and you've got to change your gearbox, it's not going to bode well.
Reece, your outlandish prediction.
My ridiculous prediction is, because I don't think it will happen, but if I'm going to predict it, is Fernando Alonso will get 3 or more podiums this season.
There'll be a lot of tattoos. Go on, Tim.
For my one, we're going proper outlandish, so I'm going to throw it in there. Daniel Ricciardo, 2021 world champion.
Bring it on!
In a McLaren. Too far out of it.
In a McLaren. Come on.
I think that's safer. Than my risky prediction.
I don't think so, because I think at the moment it's between Max and Lewis, and I think Max might even be the favourite after test.
I think McLaren could be there.
Yeah.
Anyway, shall we?
We'll move on. One last item in this episode of the Formula One Fans UK podcast. Sad news that broke on the weekend with Murray Walker. Everyone at Formula One Fans UK was deeply saddened to learn about the passing of Murray Walker at the age of 97. Simply put, Murray is a legend of Formula One. He is Mr. Formula One. The voice to generations of Formula One. His Murrayisms and enthusiasm, they brought joy to everyone tuning in. And even after his retirement, he made time for fans and sport. He really was an exceptional broadcaster and a role model to everyone. Guys, what are your memories of Murray Walker?
I first started watching Formula One in '94, and I was channel hopping, and I flicked over BBC Two Grandstand, I think it was, and all I heard was this excitable, squeaky voice, and I was like, "What's that?" And all it was, it's Senna. Senna spun. He's out of the race. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. That was it. He had me hooked. And I'll never forget Damon winning the championship in '96. And what Murray had to say for that lap leading up to the end, and that was my favourite memory of Murray, alongside his Pizza Hut advert with Damon Hill. It's Hills!
Have you ever watched him commentating on the snooker?
And here is Roddy O'Sullivan. And bang! He's missed it! Incredible!
I've met a lot of people and personalities in Formula One, and he was the one I always wanted to meet and never got the chance to. And that'll always grind with me.
I think it was like 96, 97, something like that, when that was one of the first F1 races that I ever watched. I had to stay at the grandparents', God rest their souls, over the weekend, and I got introduced to Formula One and the passion that evidently comes along with it with my granddad. And I think it was maybe the Spanish Grand Prix with Michael Schumacher, and obviously they were like following Schumacher, and I'm like, who's Schumacher? Who is this? Yeah, I think that was the first instance like of how hyped a sport could be by just one person, and how much of an emphasis that one person can bring to the energy and the passion and all that kind of stuff towards the sport. And then it's just I watched him on TV till like 2001, following through with like ITV and stuff like that. It's just one of them people that you're just never going to forget from Formula One, no matter how long we get. It's kind of another Niki Lauda situation, where it's like you've got to respect what they did for the sport. You know, he was very passionate. I think you would struggle to find a presenter that's going to have the longevity and success and just basic rapport with people that he's going to have, or had. Sorry, that he had. And it's a very sad thing to lose him, and to lose two names of the sport quite close together as well, from that kind of classic F1 days. But yeah, it's just it takes you like right back to like grassroots Formula One, I think.
Yeah. Similar to Daniel, in a sense that my grandparents on my mum's side were the people who got me into Formula One, and my mum through them, basically. And I am a bit younger than Daniel and Chris, so I don't quite remember. Well, I convinced myself that I remember Murray's commentary in his last few years of broadcasting. But as a younger child, you question whether or not you actually remember them accurately or not. The one I definitely remember is 2001, when Ralph Schumacher went over the top of Barrichello at Australia in the opening race. That's my first solid memory of him. But then also just looking back at old clips, and also not just for his F1 work, his work for motorsport in Britain in general. Like, one of my favourite clips of him was Gabriele Tarquini in the touring cars, and you're watching another load of cars, and then suddenly Tarquini's car just flips in front of the camera at close range, and you see Murray's excited and astonished and shocked reaction, and he had the reaction of a fan and not a lot of the time it felt like you were watching with F1's number one fan, not F1's number one media broadcaster. And that's what drew you to him, because he would go,
exactly, yeah,
if someone who is a fan of the sport can portray their love for the sport in this way, then there must be something about this sport or this genre of sport in the form of motor racing that is worth watching and is worth being there for. And then I think actually one of the definite Murray memories that I have is the Nürburgring race at 2007, the famous Marcus Winkelhock 7 cars in the gravel at turn 1. Murray Walker was on the red button that day for BBC covering the radio coverage. And if you ever listen back to that clip, it's much more interesting than the ITV broadcaster's clip of it. It was absolutely incredible. And it's just, I don't think F1 just lost a broadcaster. I think F1 and motorsport lost its number one fan, which for the following of any sport or any team is just a very sad day.
Yeah, I think for me, I started watching Formula One in around 2003, 2004.
Youngling.
So I missed the live moments of Murray brilliance. But being brought up in that early 2000s fan, you knew about Murray Walker, and like with the guys here saying, it's grandparents that got us into Formula One. It would be watching classic F1 with my nan on the red button, Murray Walker commentating over fist fights between drivers and how terrible it was, and it just shows the reach Murray Walker had, in the sense that me being someone who didn't watch Formula One when Murray was the commentator knows so much about him. It just shows that he really, like I said, he was Mr. Formula One. Excuse me while I interrupt myself. We're going to end this episode with impressions or reciting our favourite Murray Walker lines, as they were so iconic. Tim, would you like to start?
There's a fiery glow coming out from the back of that Ferrari. To which James Hunt responds, "No, Murray, that's his rear safety light."
I love it.
All right, Daniel?
My one is, there are 7 winners of the Monaco Grand Prix on the starting line today, and 4 of them are Michael Schumacher.
Brilliant. Reece?
For me, it's 1990. It's the race has just started in Japan. It's the final race of the season, and Senna is trying to go through the inside, and it's happened immediately. This is amazing.
And it was.
Chris?
Funny one I liked, that's history. I say history because it happened in the past.
Oh, brilliant.
But obviously, being a Hill fan, and it's the one that strikes a note with everybody at the minute, and I probably will choke up. But I've got to stop because I've got a lump in my throat. And that just says it all.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I think there's a Murray Walker quote which sums up literally our last 2 podcasts of, I want to say so much more than I have time for. I think that literally sums up our whole entire recording session in one final Murray Walker quote.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Formula One Fans UK podcast. If you want to find out more about us, you can find us on Facebook as Formula One Fans UK, or if you're on Twitter or on Instagram, we are at Formula One Fans UK. That's with the number 1. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much, Murray Walker. Until next time, goodbye.